So, I mean, following around and hearing how we talk to them, seeing how we communicate, and seeing that like communication is a huge part of this job. It's like lawyering in family law is largely communication based.
Yeah.
It's communicating to the client and answering their questions. It's getting responsiveness back to the opposing counsel. So yeah, it's heavy communication based.
Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share the secrets and the strategies of how we are building a rapidly growing family law practice. You know, over the past 9 years, we have grown from 0 attorneys to 25, doing over 15 million in revenue. And my purpose here is to document our story and share with you what's working and what's not working in our practices, with hopes that you can take that and you can recontextualize that in your practice and shorten your success curve. And I have with me a special guest today, Holly Mullin, joined our team. Holly, I think almost 9 years ago in April, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, that's right.
You were pregnant with Chase, coming in as an associate, and today you co-lead our entire team of 20 plus lawyers. And I can assure you all that if I would have asked Holly on that first interview, can you see yourself one day running this entire team? First off, we had like 3 attorneys at that point. I think you were number 3, but the answer would have been no. But your leadership journey is an amazing story. And I just want to share that with our listeners because there's so many inspirational things to be taken away from what you've done, how you've grown, and how you've stepped into leadership. And one last point on that, you never asked to be in a leadership position in our firm. I want to make that real clear. In fact, you were very reluctant when I first approached you. I think it took me months or quarters at least to convince you to take that first managing partner role. But even though you didn't have that title, the moment you joined our team, you raised the bar and you are already leading and influencing without a title. You're doing it just by how you modeled practicing, how you modeled engagement with teammates, and your professionalism has always been the paradigm example that I point to of a professional player and attorney on our teams. So how did it all get started with us? I'd love to hear your side of the story.
Well, thank you. First of all, that was a very kind introduction. Yeah, joining Sterling, that's 9 years. I can't even believe that. I wasn't a mom yet when I joined. So it all started because you sent a text. I think it had some emojis, smiley face or something that would I be interested in hearing about a family law opportunity. So I'm always curious. And you and I connected over coffee and talked to me about this up and coming family law focused firm and trying to break the mold of kind of the old stuffy mahogany law firm and, you know, have a work-life balance. And I was really intrigued. And then in all honesty, what happened was I found out I was pregnant and I got really nervous and thought, oh, maybe now is not a good time for a change. And I had told you, thank you so much for the offer, but I'm going to pass. And you're like, what? We had such a good rapport. How did I misread this? I thought for sure this would be, you know, our newest team member. And I told you before I even told my mom. And I said, listen, this is the honest answer. And then you sold me. You convinced me and you reminded me of the things that we talked about over coffee. And so I made the switch. I had been with the other firm for about 7 years or so. And so I switched over here and at that time was just, I think one of 3 family law attorneys in one state in one office. And now we've grown it to 4 offices and 2 states. So here we are.
I remember whenever you turned us down, I remember being super surprised because I thought I read the room right. But whenever you said yes, whenever I was able to, to help you see the opportunity and change your mind a bit, I remember it was such a big celebration internally because you gave us instant credibility because your reputation in our small family law bar here in town was so strong. So it really lended credibility to everything that we did. So I remember you hit the ground running and you started just being over the top productive in how you were producing, putting up numbers and taking care of clients like in an extraordinary way. And you really set the bar in the beginning because other attorneys saw what you were doing. And whenever you could see another attorney doing some really crazy things, you start to believe you can yourself, and you gave others that belief. And then we started to grow from there. And I remember after about 9 or 10 months, we made that pivot to doing just fixed fee. And how that took some convincing. And I know you had a pretty cynical attitude in the beginning, or just skeptical, I should say. Walk us through what that change was like.
Okay, so for our listeners, I will be the first to admit I am not readily open to change. Just generally speaking in my life, I am a creature of habit and I like to know what's coming. I'm not a risk taker. I'm not a gambler. Like, I am very probably over thoughtful in all of my planning. So
You're very measured, Holly.
I am very, very measured. And so when this conversation was, I looked at it from every angle of how this couldn't work, of how this would be such a challenge in family law, and every case is unique and there's too many unknowns. And as I kept talking, I realized like, this is really not like a dialogue where I'm going to win a debate. Like, I'm being told this is happening and I need to break my mold of embrace and drive this change that we've decided this is the trajectory of the firm. And so how are we going to make this happen? So I was nervous. I was really, really nervous because I was like 8.5 months in, and it was actually during my maternity leave. It was right after the holidays and the new year. So I was going to be just coming back from maternity leave, and you had asked me to come to the office and I was like, oh gosh, what's this about? And you had told me we're moving to fixed fees. So anyways, we rolled it out. And I will say though, there were certain aspects from the get-go that I knew I would love about it. Mm-hmm. Like as an hourly attorney, I mean, by that point I'd been doing hourly billing for 8 years of my practice. And there was a lot I hated about that. So there was a lot that I was ready to release and not ever look back on. Tracking phone calls and tracking emails and explaining to clients that it's not my fault that the judge isn't calling their case and we've been sitting in the courthouse on that bench in the hallway for an hour. And it's like, yeah, I know you're on the clock. This isn't enjoyable for me either. So there was a lot of things that I was excited about with this idea, but also I was just nervous about whether it could be successful because I'm a worrier. I'm always worried. So it was all January of 2016.
Yeah, I recall that very clearly. I didn't remember asking you to come in from your maternity leave, so I'm sorry about that. I should have just come over to your house or something and had the conversation there. So I recall that as we moved through 16 and began to try to understand the model, you really mastered it first among all of us. And you were the key voice in later developments as we moved into different type of fixed fee around time bound, using a quoting tool and other things. So today our firm still remains 100% fixed fee. And I would say you've more than anyone have the credit for helping us build that system that's been so successful today for our clients and for our team. As a part of that leadership, you eventually took on a role of being the managing partner of our Milwaukee team. And I know in the outset, we talked about you were a little standoffish on that in the beginning. Can you walk us through you deciding to take that role on, what that meant to you from a personal challenge?
Sure. So I'd been just working as a practicing attorney with a full caseload and serving clients for my duration with Sterling. And I think I was first approached with this idea maybe in late 2019, maybe second or third quarter of 2019. And my initial reaction was probably the same thing that you felt after you had initially offered me the job. Was I was sort of like, no, I don't think this is for me. And of course, you gave me some time and you reapproached the idea maybe a quarter later, and you gave me a confidence boost and you were quite assured that this would be a good role for me and that my team members would benefit from it. Because I think that was really my hesitation. Was I had a lot of confidence in my ability to practice and to do family law and to do that well, but I didn't have a lot of confidence in any sort of business acumen or leadership. That's not anything I had any training on in my career. So, I had never managed anything from working in college or law school or any of those pre-law jobs that I had. It just wasn't something I was exposed to. So I was just quite nervous. I didn't want to be in a position that I couldn't do well and be confident that I was doing it really well, particularly if it was going to be impacting any of my colleagues and team members. So you had talked to me that second round about having leadership training, and that you and at the time Tony Carls, another key player in the business, would be there to help me along the way with that skill set, and that really it was your initial job as leader is to lead by doing and showing the way, which you've already been doing. So that, it was really just a confidence boost to feel like I could do it. But over time, I've certainly grown comfortable in the role of feeling like I can support and challenge the attorneys that are up and coming in Sterling, and even the paralegals, I've gotten to work really closely with them on my team as well. And the still things I'm learning every single day. I mean, it was certainly a sharp learning curve starting the role, and then COVID hit 3 months into it, which was that was extra strange because I'm trying to lead from afar. But it was something I'm really glad that I took on. It's like challenging yourself is never the easy path. But in hindsight, I'm so very glad I did it.
There's a school of thought that the person who is resisting the role, not asking for it, is oftentimes the one that's best suited for it, because we've seen other examples where someone has been pushing to get a leadership role and they're just not ready, not the right time. And maybe there's an ego or a pride issue there. And you've borne that out as the person who's just been humble and not asking for it, but accepting that responsibility and opportunity to help lead your team and to help them grow. One of the things you've done really, really well is develop some of our younger attorneys as they have come in kind of even new to the practice, certainly new to our way of doing things, and you've been able to tutor them, coach them, and lead them along. What are some of the early lessons that maybe stick out to you that have been positive, or maybe lessons you've had to learn the hard way to help those new teammates really get up to speed and be successful like they are today?
I frankly have found that the attorneys that come into this with an open mind of fixed fee can work, that makes a huge difference. I'm not trying to convince them of something. They're already open-minded to it. That's helpful. I don't really find that it matters how much family law experience they have. It's an important skill set, but that's something that I could teach almost any attorney is like, well, here's a law, here are the local court rules, here's the contracts we typically draft or the pleadings we use all the time. But it's really the number one, can you understand how fixed fees serves a client? And are you able to deliver that message to them to help them truly understand why this model is hugely beneficial to them? Because if you yourself don't believe that, trying to help a client understand how this will work for them, that's never going to work. So can you yourself recognize that there's value here to a client in the marketplace? And then two is, I think, totally different, right? That's more of a business probably skill or sales skill. And then the second one is a much more client service skill. And it's who really cares about serving these clients going through the worst time of their life, regardless of how smart you are or how great you are with the law or in the courtroom or you draft perfect contracts. Can you be human enough to empathize with people who are at their potentially lowest point in life? Going through a horrible time? Do you get defensive? Are you snippy? Are you annoyed? Are you somebody who puts people off or back burner? That is something that's also super hard to train. So it's if I have an individual who's eager to learn, open-minded, and has a personality that is empathetic, good listener, great communicator, it's that person I can tell from the onset, it's I want to keep you. You're great. I can get you the legal skills with time. Some of these others, the intangibles, are much harder to train on, potentially not trainable, and so if I can sense early on that they are capable of those, I'm going to try my very best to get them engaged in our process and latch onto it. And then this family law skills that will come along the way. I just need to put those people in front of clients and make them comfortable with our consultations, with our fee agreements, that kind of stuff. But I'm really looking for these young attorneys who are actually truly dedicated to the clients.
What are some things that you look for to identify that empathy gene early in the interview process? Are there any magic you have to identifying whether or not they have that it factor that you're looking for?
It's hard. I've misread the room before. I really have. Some of our attorneys are kind of fresh out of law school. Others have been practicing for years. The ones who have been practicing for years, I think that's easier to flesh out because I can ask about, give me some examples of cases you've worked on, give me examples of challenging clients. And, if they're speaking about their past clients, and again, they would not reference them by name, of course, but just talking generally about this client I had and this experience I had, how are you referencing them? Is it in a light that is like recognizing that they were going through a really rough point, or they're using things like obnoxious or crazy or needy, so demanding, like the way they describe past clients for practitioners that are interviewing at a point in their career where they can talk about past cases. That's going to be a pretty good indicator. For younger attorneys, I think that's trickier. So I like in their interviews, I'm usually much more focused on like work ethic, eager to learn. Are they asking a lot of questions about the firm? Are they asking about us? Are they asking about the colleagues they'll get to work with? Or are they asking a lot more questions about what we can do for them? That maybe sounds wrong, but if I'm being candid, I don't like that very much. Like, what we can do for you is give you the absolute best work environment and train you and, among some of the best family law practitioners. Like, you'll get to be mentored by and shadow some of the best in the business. And that's your advantage, and we have awesome benefits. Like, there's things there, but I'm like, in the first interview, if I'm hearing a lot about what they need and they're not asking a lot about our firm and how we do things, that's kind of a turnoff to me. Like, I want them to be showing eagerness to like be a part of this team and what they can offer to us, and not, seeking out everything that, how we can give them the best work-life balance and what our vacation policies are and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It speaks, I think, just generally to their personality, but the empathy part, that's tricky. It really is.
Once they are hired and they join your team, you've done an exceptional job of imparting those actual skills, those family law practitioner skills. What are some best practices that you've employed to do that, to bring these attorneys along so quickly in their growth and understanding of family law, in particular, those nuances that you can't look up online or you can't look up in a statute book? So
my practice has been to have those young attorneys, and when I say shadow, I mean like truly be a shadow. Not just like if I have to go to court because I have some really important hearing that's like interesting, but it's like, how am I talking to my clients on the phone? What is my tone? What is my responsiveness?
Wow.
What advice and feedback am I giving?
You actually give coaching on tone? Like,
oh yeah.
Oh wow, okay. I didn't know you got that granular.
I think there's a lot of times where, like, trust me, I have to do my own self tone check. It's like, I might have a really busy day. I have I have court, I have client meetings, I have a settlement conference, I have mediation, whatever, that my calendar's packed, and I have a client who emails me at 6 a.m. and then I get another email at 11:30, like, hey, wanted to know if you saw that email. And it's like, yep, sure did. And I'll get back to you, but it's been 4 hours, 5 hours, and you are emailing me twice and you've already called the office. So I, in that moment, have to take a breath and say, all right, clearly they're worked up. I need to not be defensive and annoyed. I need to give them a minute and let them know I'm here. I know you need me. I'm with another client or I'm in court. You will hear from me before the end of the day.
Yeah.
Without me being frustrated with them and directing that at a client, which is totally inappropriate. So, they've hired us for this service and I fully intend to give it to them. And I don't ever want them to catch me in an off moment where I am defensive and somehow suggesting they're contacting us too much or something like that. So I do think having young attorneys see that it's that's not an okay approach with clients, and here's how I would manage that is they don't necessarily get to jump the line. I will give them a point of contact of, hey, I'm tied up today. Here's my next availability. That way they know they've been heard. I've reached out. I've let them know here's the next time I can address their questions. In the meantime, if you need something, here's my paralegal's contact. They can take down some notes and maybe I can get you an email with your response. So that is what I guess mean by tone, is just making sure that we are providing just really good high quality service and appropriate communication. So, following around and hearing how we talk to them, seeing how we communicate, and seeing that communication is a huge part of this job. It's lawyering in family law is largely communication based.
Yeah.
It's communicating to the client and answering their questions. It's getting responsiveness back to the opposing counsel. So yeah, it's heavy communication based. I also would have young attorneys or new attorneys sit in on consultations. The consultation is like a huge information source. Like they are hearing in real time, the young attorneys are hearing in real time questions fielded by the attorney. You know, like the potential client is asking us real life scenarios that you can't make up. These are real situations that they want immediate answers to. It's like, how do we think on our feet? I think in that sense, they're getting a lot of information on Wisconsin family law, but they're also hearing that sometimes the answer is, it depends. And that's an okay answer, is to like be honest about that. Don't BS your way through that. Like tell the client, like it depends, not because I am not confident or experienced in family law, but because sometimes there's gray areas in the law or because it can be subjective based on your judge.
Yeah.
So let me kind of give you two ideas and I'll give you my best gut instinct on how I think that would shape out in your case. But I think hearing that is important for these young attorneys, is being really honest, being direct, don't sugarcoat, but also give them answers to questions because they're going to want to hear it.
Yeah. Now you've promoted recently associate to senior associate, a senior associate to a partner. What do you look for in them whenever you make that promotion decision? What are some of the key factors that you're looking to just understand?
So depending, I guess, on that level, you know, if it's an associate to a senior associate, at that point, I want to see that they have really, truly understood the Sterling approach to family law. Like, do they understand fixed fee? Do they know what the appropriate representation would be in a case? Like, is this person just in need of limited scope services? Do they need full representation? So I want to see confidence in that. I want to see that they have a basic understanding of family law practice across the spectrum of the cases that we handle. So I make a meaningful decision of making sure in their first year, like, have we given them opportunities to do paternity cases, to do divorce cases, to do post-judgment support modifications or placement modifications. If they want to learn mediation, like, have they engaged in mediation enough so that they are independently able to handle cases and to field client questions? Once they get to like a senior associate to partner, my question is, are they continuing to grow? Are they challenging themselves? Are they asking questions when they should? Like, are they still engaging in the team? Meaning like asking questions from teammates, but also pitching into teammates. What's their personal referral source? Like, do they have clients coming back? I think a personal referral source, obviously that's helpful to the business, but more importantly, it's like, that's a very clear indicator they're serving their clients well.
Definitely.
You can have a level of your own business coming in because people in the community are talking about how great you are serving your clients. So I like to see that if we're moving somebody from senior associate to a partner level, because to me, a partner means you're contributing to the business in a really important way. At a partner level, how much are you giving to the other younger associates in the office? Like, it doesn't just have to be the managing partner that these people are shadowing with. I fully expect my partners to be stepping up, raising their hand and saying, hey, I've got a trial coming up. Would this associate like to either come and watch this trial or even sit at counsel table with me and help me co-try it? Like, or, you know, I've got a bunch of consults. Can I bring anyone in with me so they can learn from me as well? Because I think that's where, you know, at a partner level, I'm expecting those higher level attorneys to really be giving back to their colleagues and to the firm. Yeah.
You've fostered really an amazing team-centric atmosphere, especially in the Milwaukee office, where everyone sits around this big open table and going every day and just idea sharing and trading case notes and all that all the time. That's been really cool to see. When a staff member on your team is struggling, maybe they've even done something that's been in a negative way with a client, they just haven't really done the right thing. How do you come alongside them, support them through that, maybe even offer corrective insight to them? How do you do that and have those tough conversations with your team?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's super important to have those conversations, to not let it go unsaid, to like not sweep it under the rug or just chalk it up to like, oh, it's a difficult client. You know what I mean? Like, I think you really do need to talk to an attorney on the team and say, that was the wrong call. that was something we should have done different. I'll probably start with curiosity, like what led to that, what happened there. Give me some insight, because I don't pretend to know everything that's going on in every single file in this firm. So I want to have an understanding, like procedurally, what was going on, what was the fact patterns, like what were we dealing with here, and how did it lead to be that this is what was decided to be done, or how would this miss happen?
Yeah.
And then I would probably give some challenge of how could we have done this different? Let's talk about this and flesh it out, and talk about how if this comes up again in the future, how it should be handled differently, how I, in my practice, if something like this has come up, what I would have done and why. And then I would probably say that if one person made this error, is there a likelihood or a reality that others either are doing it wrong or might do it wrong, and then bring it to the rest of the team so it can be a learning opportunity for everybody.
Yeah.
You made an error. Let's call it what it was. It was a mistake. If it was intentionality, okay, that might be a very different conversation. If it was an error and a learning opportunity, then are they embracing that opportunity? Are they hearing me out, or is there a lot of defensiveness?
Yeah.
Because how they receive that information is going to shape how that dialogue goes, moving forward, or how am I responding to them? But because of the way I manage, I'd like to think most of my team would be quite receptive, because I think they trust I am there to make them better. Like, I don't think they think I'm trying to come down on them or put them in a situation of like judgment and stress. I think they dearly believe I want them to grow and do better. And because we're under the same brand and we're on the same team. So I hope that they would trust that anything I'm saying is out of a goal for improvement.
I think that's why your team has responded so well when you've had those tough conversations. I know you've had many of them, because they know you care. And it starts there. They know deep down inside Holly cares for them as people, as growing attorneys, and you wouldn't come to them and say, hey, this is an area that I think you can have an opportunity to improve, unless you really felt like it was best for them and would make them better. You've also made some tough calls on moving attorneys on from our team. Generally speaking, what are some of the lessons you've learned through those hard times where you've had to let attorneys go for performance reasons or behavioral reasons?
Yeah. When it's behavioral reasons, a lesson I've learned is sooner the better. I think that's a tough one.
I learn that lesson every year, it feels like.
Oh, I know. It's sort of like, because I am like a fixer.
Yeah.
Like, I can fix this. I'm going to make this better. And it's like, you know what? When it's a personality issue, it's usually not going to be fixed. It festers, it influences the rest of the team, and it can bring down a lot of people when there's a mismatch on personality, a negative person or a gossiper or just a pot stirrer. There's a lot that can go into a personality problem that just generally speaking can kind of poison the well. So personality issue is sort of like, look, I'm going to call it out. And I'm going to expect a pretty immediate change. And if I don't see it, that person needs to go, because I just don't want the rest of the team negatively influenced. If it's a performance, I'm probably going to be a little bit more patient with that to try and also look like, what can I do better in leading this person to like support them, give them tools, give resources, be with them. Like maybe it's me doing consults with them again. Maybe it's me meeting with them on a more regular cadence, like to go through their files and figure out strategy, or going to court with them and co-chairing. Where is it a lack of confidence that they just maybe aren't performing as well because they're not believing in themselves? And how can I build that confidence by helping them with their experiences or their skills, but also challenging them and making sure that I'm holding them accountable. Like this, it's not just going to be a chit chat, but also like, look, these are the things specifically that aren't hitting the mark. Here's how I think you can improve on them, but I'm going to give you some to-dos and I expect you to follow through. And then let's reconnect on a maybe weekly basis and talk about what you're doing. What action steps have you taken? And then let's look at some of those measurements, metrics that we keep track of, and is the needle moving in the right direction? Because if they're doing what I'm asking of them and it's still not moving the number, then I'm looking more in the mirror of maybe I'm not giving them the right tools or the right challenges. I might tap on Katie, the managing partner in Illinois, might go up to Jeff Curlin and ask him, as my supervisor, like, here's what I've tried so far, like help me better guide this person. Because if they're engaging with me, they're open to it and trying like on a performance basis, that's what I'm looking for, is like they're trying to improve. They're open to that. And I think attitude is so crucial when it comes to a team member's performance.
Right.
So, but sometimes, I've had to make some tough calls, and gut instinct, I think, goes a long way. It does. Like I've come to kind of see when there's a good fit or a not good fit, and not letting it go on too long is usually the best call.
Yeah, I've actually seen you do that over the last couple of years, just be a little quicker about making those calls than you may have in the past. It was interesting as you were describing how you've handled some of those scenarios, Holly, you talked about giving your team challenge. And in our firm, we talk a lot about the yin and the yang, so to speak, of leadership being support and challenge. You got to give both in equal measure to some extent to your team, challenging them, but also supporting them. And I've talked with you candidly in the past about one of my biggest struggles in my leadership has been balancing my tendency and my bent toward challenge with support, pacing, slowing things down, and making sure I was giving full support to my team. And that's an area that you had in abundance since I've known you. And that's been really a natural area for you, is really supporting your team and coming alongside them and giving them what they needed to succeed. And the area that I've seen you really make some tremendous growth strides over the past even couple of years has been this concept of challenging your team. How did you first start to recognize that in your leadership? And do you have any just things you've done, like intentional to strengthen that area of your leadership and the concept of challenge?
That was actually a really important learning curve for me. I didn't really have any understanding of that dynamic of support and challenge and balancing it just right so that, you're not overly supporting and not challenging, or only challenging and not supporting, like doing both in essentially equal parts. I didn't have any understanding of that. I had never really heard of it until I got into a leadership role. I took some advice and read some leadership books, and we did the giant skill set training and had a good mentor in Tony. So, I will say that wasn't something that was innately understood by me. But once I started learning about it, it became very obvious in my practice how important that was. I think I was overly supportive, sort of like maybe too quick to do for people, as opposed to challenging them to take the reins and do something new themselves, like really like help them grow by not doing for people. A little bit of a control freak at times. So I totally admit that. So there are times where I find like, I can help by doing it all. And that is really not how you can help somebody grow. Number one, they'll become like more used to than somebody just always stepping in and doing it for them. And two, they feel incapable because I didn't trust to have them do it themselves. So it's like, instead, let me give you some tools. Let me give you resources. Let's talk about it. I'll give you ideas, but then you're going to take the reins on that as the first time. I know you've never done this kind of hearing, but I'm going to prep you on how to do it. But then you're going to do it. And maybe I'm there alongside. I'm going to co-chair this one with you. You'll be the lead attorney. I will support you. And then the next go around on this, I'm not going to co-chair. You're going to do it. You're going to be lead. And if you have questions on it, we're going to debrief. And by the third go round, this is old news and you've been doing it and you're just fine. And now you have that confidence, you have the skill set, and that helps people really grow. I have found, particularly with attorneys, there's this fear of like letting people know when you haven't done something. Like you don't want to say like, I've actually never done a restraining order, right? Like then you somehow don't seem like you're a good experienced attorney. So some people will kind of fake it, but they don't want to ask these questions like, how do you take a deposition? I'm an attorney, I should know that. Not really. It's not like there's a course in law school called depositions. So it's like, unless you've done one, and they're quite rare in family law. So like I had the benefit of being at a litigation firm before I joined Sterling, where there was a lot of civil litigation, and I occasionally covered depositions. The only reason I knew what I was doing with them. Otherwise, family law practitioners, I don't think get a ton of, generally speaking, litigation procedure. And so I want to like foster a culture in our office of Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. Like, let's talk about what it is that you haven't done yet. And then let's make a plan for getting you that experience. We have a wealth of experience at Sterling. Like, we have offices in Appleton and Madison and Illinois, and we can use that depth you can be in Appleton in less than an hour. If they've got a deposition up there, go watch it. Oh, I've got a great trial. It's going to be like, on Zoom, you can just sit in the room while I'm doing it, and you're there experiencing it with me, and it becomes a lot less scary once you've seen it. So part of the support piece, right, is just like being available, being open to teaching. And then the challenge is like making sure they're owning what they need to learn, and then they are following through on taking some steps themselves to like improve, and then being willing to do it. And then knowing that I won't be necessarily hovering and doing it for them. And that's personally been a challenge to myself. Yeah. It's like, take a step back, don't hover. They got it, So yeah, that's actually been like probably the most important thing I learned as a managing partner, as a leader in the firm, is like, that's hugely important balance to have.
That's such a thoughtful response to that question. It's been fun to watch you really grow in that area. So lightning round here, and then we'll conclude. So what is a quote that's meaningful to you?
Can I give you two? One personal, one professional. Okay, professional. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I would say with my clients, like just having the certainty and outcome, knowing what you're getting it now, getting it up front, and not relying on the future and the uncertainty is like huge. And so bird in the hand, two in the bush. I feel like that's important to me. I use that often. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it helps clients kind of come around. On a personal note, if you need something done, ask a busy mom.
That's so true. I will vouch for that.
And I'm like, honestly, it's like the days that I'm the busiest, I can get, what do you need done? I got it. Like, what can I get to the grocery store? You betcha I can. I will get it done. And I feel like when I am not busy, it's like somehow then tasks become like less urgent, where it's like, if I'm on a roll and I am busy, like everything is getting done and I don't miss a beat. I've got this just energy of accomplishment. So like, need something done, ask a busy mom.
Oh, that's terrific. What's the leadership pet peeve that you have?
Lack of motivation, particularly with younger attorneys, is like, you have a really unique opportunity at this firm to like, particularly when you just start, you're just starting, you have no caseload usually, and you have this opportunity to learn from practitioners who really know what they're doing and have a lot to offer, but you're not taking any initiative. That attorney isn't taking any initiative to find opportunities for themselves.
Yeah.
Because as a managing partner, it's like, I will do my very best to dedicate a whole lot of time and energy to finding opportunities for people. But I have a caseload of my own also, right? And I'm busy. So it's like, I can't spend every minute of every day telling you what to put on your calendar. Like, look at your team members' calendars and find opportunities for yourself. Because those people who are initiative makers, motivated and eager to learn, you can sense it. They will learn so much faster. They will be the first to move up to, from associate to senior associate, and from there to partner. Like these people who are eager to learn and making their own initiatives, like that is the person I want. And the people who don't do any of that and kind of sit like a bump on a log, you're going to get exactly that much out of it. And that drives me bonkers.
I can see that. Is there something in your life that you're really proud of that most people don't know about?
Yes, I refurbish furniture.
Oh, I did not know that. I've known you for 9 years and didn't have a clue you did that. Oh boy, okay.
So I mean, like old like china hutches
stuff, or
yeah.
Oh my goodness, wow.
I mean, I found this table, just like this unbelievable solid wood, like 16 foot, but it has 3 leaves, so it can like shrink down to, like an 8-foot size table. And it's got these like beautiful, like, I don't even know how you just like the legs on them are just like perfectly carved. And it was a total mess. I found it on Craigslist. This is like 15 years ago, and I got it for $100.
Okay.
I had to rent a pickup truck, and I got this table, spent like 2 weeks. I sanded the whole thing. I restained it. It is gorgeous. It's in my dining room. And I mean, you could probably buy something like it on Restoration Hardware for like $4,000.
Wow.
And I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
$100 in my dining room.
Good for you. Wow.
And I love it. And I love seeing like physical results of stuff, you know, like,
That's
there
really
you have
good.
it.
It's been revealed. Last one here. If you could give a word of encouragement to a up and coming law firm leader right now, what would you tell her?
Like, believe that your team has your back as much as you have theirs. I think I had a lot of insecurity that way, sort of like, I'm going to be letting people down. And I mean, I had these attorneys who I'd been their like counterpart, colleague, practicing attorney with them. And then I sort of moved up to their supervisor, managing partner, which felt a little isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I recognized how much they were all rooting for me to be successful, because like my success meant their success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just wish I would have recognized that a lot sooner and wouldn't have needed to feel so isolated and like getting just kind of stuck in my own nerves, that I can't let all these people down when they were all just excited and happy for me. So I think just knowing that if you're in that role, you were selected for a reason, either because your own counterparts and colleagues wanted you there, or because somebody who's probably been doing leadership for a while thinks that you have the skill set it takes, and have confidence in yourself.
Wow, that's so good. I'm just reminded, Holly, just why your team will run through a wall for you. I just saw it again right there. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing with us today some of your journey and your experience. Look forward if I can convince you next time. Hopefully we can do this again, because I didn't get through all my questions. There's some real good ones out there too I want to share. So have a great week.
Jeff.